Hello, everybody. Big Seven here, back for another AFL SuperCoach video. Today, I'm going to go through the ruck positions and my favorite seven rucks to start on field. Before I go into the rucks in detail, though, I do think we need to go over some of the rule changes. I've seen a lot of people in the community and other YouTubers. I think they're overreacting to some of the changes. I remember back in 2021 when I was playing the game, I was very worried about the stand rule coming in. I thought the game was going to be much more open. I overreacted to that. I overreacted to round one data, and I ended up starting Gorn and Grundy, but no Ruckman scored above 100 apart from I think it was like Tom Hickey and it might have been like Flynn or someone like that. I know, yeah, it was Tom Hickey and Oscar McInerney. They were the only two rocks to go over 100 in round one in 2021. I thought the rock position was dead. I torpedoed my team in round two, got rid of Grundy, brought in a washed up Stefan Martin because he was cheap, and thought I would win that way. And it was an overreaction. And I think the rule changes, I'll go through them now. I think people were overreacting to them, but as you can see here, goal square starting positions doesn't matter. Last disposal rules. So it's effectively, yeah, it's going to be the same as like the AFLW's lasso rule. If you watched even a little bit of football last year, it was basically being officiated like that anyway. If a player kicked it and it went over the boundary line, 9 times out of 10, umpires were just paying deliberate anyway. So I don't think this is going to have much, if any, impact at all. So I wouldn't be worried about last disposal. Centre bounce ball ups, I thought could be a big change. There's some good stuff on the First Use YouTube channel that's hosted by former AFL Rockman Jeff White. Really like that content. And yeah, there was a video that came out yesterday basically dissecting a few ruck contests from State of Origin. And that was pretty cool to look at. There were still ways that the bigger rucks like your Xerri were able to get the better of like Tim English by jumping into them and using their body weight rather than both players trying to high point the ball, which is what I thought might be the case. So I still think there is a place in the game for the more physical ruck. It's probably maybe a slight advantage to the more mobile rucks, but I wouldn't say more than like one extra hit out to advantage per game. And the more physical rucks will also like still be around contests. So I'm not too worried about the center ball up contest. I'd go watch that Jeff White first use video. If you want to see some examples of that, that was a really good watch. But yeah, I think, speaking about State of Origin, both teams were playing two rucks, and the game was the most open game of football I've ever seen, even more open than your standard preseason game. There were barely any like stoppages around the ground. It was just pinging from end to end. So yes, the Rucks didn't score that great in that game, but it was the best Rucks going up against each other in the most open game of all time. So I'm not putting too much stock into how players scored during State of Origin, and I think the bigger body rucks will end up being okay. So center bounce ball ups, I'm fine with, and then the ruck nominations. I think this is another mountain out of a molehill situation. Rucks umpires aren't just gonna like if the ball trickles out for a rare boundary throw in, then rucks aren't just gonna say the boundary umpires aren't just gonna throw it in half a second. They'll wait your 5 to 8 seconds, and most of the time your rucks are going to be able to get there. So I think, they are all little things and they do add up, but I wouldn't expect like ruckman to lose more than like 5 to 7 points off their average, and even that feels a little bit high. I think good players will just keep scoring, and I think this whole ruck conversation It's just it's being made into a bigger deal than it needs to be, and I can understand why. Rucks are the most important position in SuperCoach. If you don't know your ruck one, you're basically no chance. So I just think people have overanalyzed it, and I've seen some weird ruck combinations over the last few days. So without any further ado, I'm just going to go into my top seven. My number one guy is Tristan Xerri, priced at 687K, averaged 127 last year. In that average last year, though, there were 3 games where he had a hamstring injury that he was playing through. He was very visibly hobbled, had less tog. Without those 3 games, he would have averaged 134. So that's huge. Even if you wanted to even if you wanted to add like 5 to 7 points of downside from the new rough rules, it just means you're paying fair value for a guy that is set and forget, and I think is pretty much guaranteed to be top 2 at the position. So I'm happy to pay the elevated price for him. He's 26 years old, so he's very much in his prime. And the other thing is he's got some really good early fixtures. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he plays whoever Essendon have. I think it's going to be Blackiston. He'll play whoever West Coast play. It's probably going to be Flynn. I think he plays like Nankervis and Dante Visentini in the first 6 rounds. So I'm not worried about Xerri as a pick at all. And it's crazy to think that like 127 is unders, but he has those 3 injury games baked in. So Xerri is the guy that I have locked in. The next few I am still tossing up between. The guy I currently have is Tom de Koning. He's at 524,000. I started him last year. I started Xerri TDK last year and Xerri Gorn the year before. So Xerri is very much my guy, but he's proven that over the past couple of years, especially starting him at 410K or whatever he was in 2024. That was an awesome pick. But yeah, Tom de Koning, a player I started last year, got rid of him once he started to get forward time. He's only 26 years old, so he's another one that's entering the prime of his career. Over the last couple of years, when he has had 70% or more CVAs, he's averaged 112. And I'm not worried about him and Marshall playing in the same side because de Koning is an awful forward. Like he just does not impact when he's forward of the ball, whereas Rowan Marshall does. Marshall is like a reasonable forward option. So I would expect, and especially with Max King out, they need a taller player down there. So I think Rowan Marshall will be majority forward, and I think Tom de Koning will be majority ruck. I would expect de Koning to get about 70 to 75% of the CVAs, and Marshall getting the rest of those, and those would mostly come when de Koning's off the ground. And when the ball's in the forward line, I would expect Marshall to be doing the rucking, and TDK can sit a kick behind play and intercept mark like Gorn does. So I think I'm not sure if he has the upside to finish as like a top 3 ruck. Maybe he does like between 110 and 115. But at the price, he's definitely value. And I have question marks over the rest of the ruck options. So he's someone that I'm kind of seeing as like a good bridge. I think he at worst maintains his price. And best case scenario, he's someone that you might be able to trade at the buy to a fallen guy like a Jackson or a Grundy, or there's a few other names you could go to, and you could actually make money trading him to a better ruck. So I'm pretty keen on the TDK pick. At 1.7 million a year, he has to perform to fulfill the contract, and I think he will. Next up, he's a guy that just keeps going up my rankings, and is Brodie Grundy. Especially last year, there was no chance I was picking him, and I've been a bit of a Grundy hater over the years, admittedly. But his numbers from last year are really good. Averaged 125 over the course of the year. But he also came into the season with a knee injury that he suffered in preseason. And his first few games were not under. Sorry, his first few games were underwhelming. He had, I think it was the bye in round three, and that extra week of rest probably would have helped. And then from round four onwards, he averaged 133. Um, it did feel like, as a non-owner, that Grundy was just killing us every week, and that round four average onwards really probably explains why it felt like we were those that faded him were drowning a bit. So yeah, he's 680 odd K. There's a few kind of concerns I have about him. Like, he's 31 years old, so he should theoretically like be in the back half of his career. And it's also just like a pretty crazy career arc because like he had a 5 year gap between being a premium and yeah, had a couple of, like, obviously COVID happened, had a few bad years at Collingwood, gets pushed out the door, goes to Melbourne. Him and Gawn were never going to work as a combination. And then first year at Sydney was underwhelming, but this last year was good. So I don't know. Is it just going to be a 1 year kind of flash in the pan and he goes back to how he was doing previously? Or is this somewhat impacted by Dean Cox being the head coach and Dean Cox obviously being one of the great rucks of this era? So maybe there is a bit of impact from that. Either way, I'm I'm on the fence. I could see him doing like a 125, 130, even with the new ruck rules, which they probably disadvantage him a little bit. But I don't know. I'm just getting more and more enticed as preseason goes on, and um, set and forget has been a pretty good ruck strategy in seasons past. So he's definitely on my radar. Another player who I think is just a pretty solid safe option is Tim English, just over 600K, averaged 111 last year. I'm just not sure about his upside. He averaged 128 in 2023, but that seems more like a outlier year than like an indicator of what he will do. Yeah, 2022, 2024, 2025, he's been around that 105 to 111 range, especially like that 2024 season. It was a contract year, and you normally see players like kind of rise up to that and yeah, play better, earn themselves more money. Tim English was the opposite of that. He showed like no dog in that season. I think that was the 105 year, and then last year was 111. I think he's a fine option. I think he's safe. You're probably getting what you pay for. But yeah, and he does have the upside where he has at least had one like elite season under his belt. I'm just not sure if he's going to be someone I want in like an ideal finish team. Is he going to be a top three ruck, or is you just getting what you pay for, and he ends up behind like your Gawn, Grundy, Xerri, Jackson, and he's kind of like one of those middling guys. So I think he's pretty safe. In theory, the new ruck rules should suit his game style, but we'll see. I think he's solid, but I'm leaning more further and further away from him as I normally want to take upside shots. So especially considering like TDK's like 65K cheaper, I think I would rather go for him over English, and I think they will average pretty similarly. The next player I've been flirting with, he's been like in and out of my side, but my heart says to pick him, but my head just says too much has to go right, and that's Luke Jackson. 611K, averaged 113 last year. He is, if I do end up fading him, he's the single scariest player to fade because in games when Sean Darcy missed last year, he averaged 141. There was some weak opposition there. He had like a game against Vigo Vicentini in like his first game, and Jackson went like 185. I think he also had a game against like BJ Williams as the main ruck. So that 141 is probably a bit inflated, but I think Jackson as the main ruck would go 130. And I think, yeah, if Darcy was to somehow miss the whole season, he would be my pick to finish as the number one ruck in the comp. The new ruck rules suit him to a T, and yeah, he's 24 years old. He still hasn't peaked yet, and yeah, I think he will be a top 10 player in the competition in the next couple of years, but he's just held back by Sean Darcy. When they played together last year, and yeah, in games where Sean Darcy didn't get injured, he only averaged 101. I'm also not 100% sure what role he will play. I think Sean Darcy's a bit slept on as a player, so I would expect Darcy to play like 60 to 65% ruck, and then Jackson the rest of the time. And then when Jackson isn't in the ruck, he can play midfield or he can play forward, and that can change as well. So I'm just, yeah, he's a player that just he's such a good player. Like, there's no other way of saying it. And um, if Darcy does get injured, then I'm going to want him. The difficult part about fading him is if Darcy gets injured and it's like a 2 or 3 week injury, do you then trade Jackson in, or do you fade him? It's a tough one, but at the moment I'm leaning no. But I can see like someone starting Jackson and it ends up being a season-defining pick. So he's the player I'm most scared of fading, but at the moment he is going to be a fade for me. Next player up, Lachlan McAndrew. He's a rookie priced ruck, about 120K. When he has played in the past, albeit that was like a few years ago, and yeah, that was over at Sydney. I think he played one game as sole ruck and then one game like kind of splitting with Bladhams. But I don't think he scored over like 60 in either of those games. So hasn't shown the scoring power yet. He does have some okay sample numbers, but so did Harry Boyd, and Harry Boyd played one game last year. So I'm not leaping out of my skin to put McAndrew on field. If he is named round one, then sure, he can go in the R3 spot. But even if he is named round one, the job security, I think, is going to be on a knife edge. And Rob is still like a decent ruck in his own right. McAndrew, and yeah, he has been more of a project player. He's 25 years old, so there's still upside in him, and I don't think Adelaide will play Rob and McAndrew, but I would just rather wait and see. Put him on the bench. If it ends up that he is scoring well enough to be on field, then I end up trading in like a 99K loophole, Kalani White ruck forward, and then McAndrew can go into the flex that way. So he's someone that I'm not keen at all at putting on field, to be honest, at least not to start the year, because if things go wrong, then it's a very hard thing to correct. And then the last player, I mentioned him before, Sean Darcy. He's been one of my guys over the year. And yeah, like I said, people have forgotten how good he actually has been in the past. He's priced at 415K, only averaged 77 last year. And there's no denying that he's just been like too injury plagued to consider as an option in recent seasons. And even this preseason, he's had a bit of a calf injury. Excluding the injury games, though, he averaged 83 last year, which isn't great, but didn't have a preseason. So there's excuses to be made there. 105 average in 2024, and that was another year where he didn't have a preseason. I think he played his first game in like round 6 or something. And then 110 in 2023. All of those averages, of course, are excluding injury games, and probably across those 3 years, there's been 5 or 6 injury games. So it's the injury history that is extremely scary. But if Sean Darcy somehow manages to get his body right, then at 415k, if he goes 100 to 105, he can be a neat kind of bridge option, especially if the plan was to get Luke Jackson later on. You could potentially run Sean Darcy in your ruck spot until he gets injured, and then your natural pivot is Luke Jackson. And in that time, if Darcy does 100 to 105, then he makes 100k, while Luke Jackson loses like probably 50 to 100k, and that's a pretty decent monetary swing. And then you end up getting Jackson for good scores, and I don't know. It probably feels a little bit cute, to be honest. And the new ruck rules probably don't suit him. And the extra spot on the bench as well is a negative because, I mean, even last year he was only getting between like 60 and 70% time on ground in most games. So he could spend more time on the pine this year. And then, yeah, Luke Jackson, as I've mentioned, is a negative. But if Luke Jackson got injured, then maybe Sean Darcy's time on ground would go up, and he could present as a pretty decent ruck option. I'm not going to go there because of his injury history, but I think it's tempting, and I'd rather go for him than like a Visentini or a Nick Madden type. So the 7 rucks to start on field. My order: Xerri is a lock. The next 3 I'm tossing up between is TDK, Grundy, and English. I'm more leaning towards TDK at this stage. He'll be a opening round watch. Um, Luke Jackson at 5, Lachlan McAndrew at 6, and Sean Darcy at 7. So thanks very much for watching. I think my next video, I can't remember what I had planned. Um, So thanks very much for watching. I think my next video will end up being a team reveal. I'll probably do that at some point next week. I did have another idea, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But um, yeah, I'll put a team reveal up soon before opening round. Obviously, things will change between opening round and season proper. Also, in that team reveal, I will put my I guess, philosophy, how I go about picking certain players, premiums, mid prices, rookies, etc. And then after opening round, I will probably do a traps video. I love I love putting my balls on the line and saying, nah, this player is not going to do stuff. Yeah, in the Discord last year, I think I put 7 together. Last year, and I think it was like 5 out of the 7 flopped hard, and it's always good to have some vindication. So yeah, I think my plan will be team reveal plus philosophy, and then a traps video, and then final team. I think I will put that out on the Friday or the Saturday of round 1 of the season. So once again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next video.